Today I'm going to show you guys how to make passives. This is possible since the tag update, but with the addition of the check state block, it's a lot easier and you can do a lot more with it. I'm going to show you three different iterations of it. The first one being automatic sheathing like Utah. Second one being blocking animations. And third one being parrying. Now, before I go on with actual passives, I do want to explain how you make weapon switching and sheathing and unsheathing in general. So, there's probably already a lot of tutorials out there about this, but when I spawn in, it gives me a weaponry tag of 1 equaling to fist and 2 equals katana. And when I press R, it just adds 1 to my weaponry tag and sets my weapon value to 2, meaning it's katana now. And then it plays a mesh. And if I press R again, the value goes above 2, it goes to 3, so it resets it back to 1. And it removes the mesh from my arm. And that's literally just how it works for weapon switching. It's quite simple. And then it gives me a tag, the weaponry tag that I already mentioned, and my moves, and then once you use that weaponry tag to decide which weapon I'm on and do different kinds of stuff depending on that. So when I'm doing an M1, there's a weaponry tag here, and if it's set to 2, it switches to the katana branch as the katana M1, but if it's not at 2, it just sells the normal M1. This is the basis for it. And then for sheathing and unsheathing and stuff like that, basically, you have a secondary tag for sheath. When I switch to my katana, it gives me a sheath tag of 1, meaning that my katana is sheathed. And when I left click, it goes to the katana branch because of my weaponry tag, and then because my sheath tag is at 1, meaning it's sheathed, it goes to the unsheath branch, where it cancels the mesh that's in my left hand, it plays another mesh in my right hand for the actual weapon, and then it goes back to the katana branch. And now because it's set to 0, it doesn't do the sheath branch again, so it just does the M1 instead, like how it should. And you just have to repeat this for basically every move. At the start of every move with your weapon, you first check if you're on that weapon, or if you're on a character that only has one weapon like Yuta but still has sheathing, you just check if the sheath value is set to 1, and if it is, then you do the unsheath and you go back and then you actually do the move. And it's quite as simple as that. Alright, now that we've got our weapon and unsheathing when we do an M1 or a move, it's time to make automatic sheathing. So you just want to go into your character block, spawn in a skill, go into conditions, turn on durability and set it to 1. Properties, no stun, no cancel, and use when obtained. Basically what we're doing is that we're making a move that starts playing as soon as we spawn in and infinitely loops one branch over and over until it needs to do something, and then it does that and it goes back to looping the branch forever. You want to start by putting down a branch block, going to a branch called wait or loop. This is up to you. The reason we do this is because you can't branch back to the default branch, so you have to use it and do it all in like a separate branch. So you go to the wait branch over here, and then you put another branch block going back to wait again. So now we've got a move that instantly repeats the branch over and over and over again. I put a wait of 1 second here, so it doesn't like check too often. It doesn't cause any lag on the game. I tested it. But nonetheless, it's still better to like be wary of it and put a wait here on something that doesn't really need to be checked too much. For something like blocking, you would put no wait here, but since we're doing automatic sheathing, it doesn't need to be too precise. So we just put a 1 second wait here, and then we've got a move that repeats every 1 second. Then we put a tag here. Now, because my character has 2 weapons, I made it so it first checks if I have the katana out. If your character has only 1 weapon, you don't need to do this, but because I do, I did this. So basically, it checks if I have the katana. If I do, it goes to branch number 2. Then it checks if I have the sheath tag value set to 0. Sheath tag value 1 means that my katana is sheathed. If it's at 0, that means it's unsheathed. So basically, if it's at 0, it's going to branch onto 3. But if it's not, it's going to go back to wait. It's going to keep looping that over and over until I pull out my katana. In which case, it's going to go to branch number 3. So here, first I made it so if I've hit anyone in the last 1 second, it goes back to wait. Then, if I'm blocking, it goes back to wait, so that I can't branch or auto-sheath while I'm blocking. Then in skill, so that I can't automatically sheath while I'm in a skill. Same with stun, so I can't automatically sheath when I'm getting comboed. And then I put a sheath wait tag here. Now, basically, every time I do an M1 or a move that immolds my katana, it made it so it gives me a tag of sheath wait for 3 seconds. Now, you can set this to a higher number if you want it to be closer to like Utah from JJS. But I made it 3, so auto-sheaths kind of quickly. Add/remove and set turned on, value 1 time whatever you want, and make this for every move or M1 that you do that immolds your weapon. And then when you go back into auto sheathing, you make a tag check here for sheath weight. And if you have the tag, it goes back to weight. So now, if you haven't hit anyone, we're not blocking, we're not in a skill, we're not stunned, and we haven't done an M1 or a move in a few seconds, it's going to go back all the way to branch 4, where now it's going to play a sound. It's going to cancel the mesh that's in my left hand, play a new mesh in my right hand for the actual weapon, play a little bit of VFX, set the sheath tag value to 1, indicating to the game that my katana is now sheathed. It's going to play an animation, nothing crazy, so it doesn't interfere with gameplay, as you can see. And then we go back to the weight branch. So now we've got an infinitely repeating move that automatically sheathes our weapon when it needs to, and that's literally all for automatic sheathing. Alright, now moving on to custom block animations. This is quite easy as well, pretty similar to automatic sheathing. It's going to be a bit more complex in this tutorial though, because I have parrying in the same skill, so it might confuse you for a second, but that's okay. You want to start by once again putting down a skill with durability set to 1, no stun, no cancel, and use when obtained. Same thing as the other thing, it's just literally a passive. And you put a branch block here, going to weight. Now in my case, I have 2 weapons. I have fist, I have katana, but I also have an unsheathed version and a sheathed version of the katana. So I put 3 weights here. You can think of this like fist, katana but sheathed, and katana but unsheathed. So it goes between these depending on what like style I'm on right now. And then when I hold F, it does whatever it needs to do. So basically, when I'm on a fist, it doesn't need to do anything when I block. So in here, it only just loops this forever until I switch to my katana. And it detects that with the weaponry tag. So when I switch to my katana and my tag is now at 2 by pressing R, it's going to notice that. And then it's going to go to weight 2. Now, you need to not put a weight here because you need blocking to be like precise and on point. You wouldn't want it to be like delayed, right? So you don't put a weight here. You again put a branch block first off, going to the same branch so it can loop forever. But in this case, I put a weaponry tag here of 1 so that if I switch back to fist by pressing R again, it's going to go back to weight. So now I can go between these 2 branches freely. And then once I'm in weight 2, my sheath tag is at 1 because it's sheathed. But if I do a left click and I switch to the unsheathed mode, the value is going to be 0 and it's going to notice that it's going to go to weight 3. And then in weight 3, you again put a branch block going to the same branch so it can loop forever. And then a sheath value checking for 1. So it's checking if it's sheathed again. And if it is, it goes back to weight 2. Now it can freely go between these as it needs to. I also put a weaponry tag here checking for 1 in case I switch back to fist as well. So it can just go between these freely like I said. Now to actually make blocking, I'm going to showcase it on unsheathed katana because I don't want to show parrying just yet. So now you have your branch that loops forever. And you just put down a block state check here. Yeah, you put down a state, set it to block, check, and then you make it branch to a branch called block. Now in here, I gave myself a sheath weight tag for 2 seconds so that if I do like a block, I can't sheath automatically for the next 2 seconds. You don't really need to do this. This is up to you whether you add this or not. But now to make the actual blocking, you need to find a good animation for this. So normally in JJS, when you hold block, your legs can still move, as you can see. And the only animations in the game that replicate that kind of thing are melee animations and some emote animations. So you just want to find a melee animation or an emote animation that looks good and lets your legs still move. Now you want to pick the frame that looks good to you. You want to set the speed to 0, fade in and fade out to 0.1. Now, when you set the speed of an animation to 0, when you actually do the animation, you get stuck in the animation forever. Unless you play the animation again with speed 1 on the same frame, which lets you actually kind of end the animation, as you can see. So how it works is, as soon as we hold F, it detects that and goes to the block branch. Now in here, it instantly gives us a speed 0 animation for our blocking animation, and then it checks for blocking again. Now, if we're still blocking, it goes back to the same block branch. So it can basically loop between these 3 blocks over and over and over until I stop blocking. And when I stop blocking, it detects that I'm not blocking anymore and it stops going back to the block branch. So it continues down here and it plays the speed 1 animation so the animation for my blocking can end. And then it goes back to weight 3. That is how you make blocking. You don't need all these branches. You just need like a single branch and a single blocking branch if you have only 1 weapon. So it is quite simple, like I said. And now let's move on to parrying. Now, moving on to parrying, I want to preface this by saying that you don't have to make it as complex as I did. I did do a bit too much on it, to be honest with you guys. You don't need to do as much as me. You can incorporate it into the same passive that lets you do blocking animations if you want. It's up to you. Basically, we put down the skill, durability 1 again. No stun, no cancel, use 1 obtained. It goes to our branch over here. And in my case, as I said earlier, these 3 different branches are the styles I have in my character. So, Wave being fist, Wave 2 being katana but sheathed, and Wave 3 being katana but unsheathed. And the only time I can parry in this character is when my katana is sheathed and I press or hold F. So in this case, these 2 branches don't really matter here. Only this one does. But basically, when we get to this branch and we have our katana in the way we have it, it's going to keep looping this branch over and over, just like with the other 2 passives. And it's kind of a block state check here, checking for when we block. Now, when we block, it's going to go to a branch called parry. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complex, but I think you guys can understand. So, I put a sheath weight here again, so that when I do a parry, I can't automatically sheath for 3 seconds. This is, again, you don't really need to put this here if you don't want to. It's up to you. And then next up, I put 3 different counter blocks here. Now, you might be wondering, why do you need 3 different counters? Because I made it so that if you parry a melee, bullet, or explosion type attack, it has different results. So, again, this is up to you. You don't need to make it as complex as I did. You can just make it so one of them counters every single attack type. This is really up to you. But in this case, I put these 3 counters here, all of them lasting for 0.3 seconds. I play an animation at 0 speed, fade in 0.75. It's up to you. Now, I again picked a skill, or I picked an animation that doesn't move my legs so that I can still move around as like I'm blocking, even though I'm doing a parry. If you want, you can put a stun state here so that when you try to parry, you have to stand still. This is up to you. I put a sound here, a little bit of like audible cue when I'm parrying, nothing crazy. Then I put a block state here. This is so that if there's any moves in the game that count as swarm, but are still blockable, I'll block them even if I try to parry, so that I don't get punished for trying to parry a move that is blockable, but not one of these attack types. I made it last as long as the counters. And then at the end of the 0.3 seconds, I played the animation again at speed 1, so that it like unfreezes itself because it was at 0 speed. And then it goes to the miss branch where it just sets my sheath tag value to 0, meaning my katana is now unsheathed. It cancels the mesh in my left hand, plays a new one on my right arm, and it goes back to looping this branch over here because now I switched to the unsheathed katana. So I'm not here anymore, I'm here this time. I go here, I try to parry, I miss. It does the parry, it misses, and then it goes back here. Because this is the unsheathed part, and this is the sheathed part. Now, let's say you do land the parry. You go into Wave 2, you hold F, it detects that, it goes into the parry branch. Now, if you land a melee type attack, if you parry it, it's going to stun your opponent for 0.4 seconds, it's going to cancel, it's going to branch you and the target, and it's going to remove on hit. Now, it's going to branch the target to parry hit. They do get stunned for 0.4 seconds, and they get pushed back a little bit, nothing too crazy. I tried to replicate Yuta's parry with this, and I made it so it plays a glow on them because Yuta's parry does the same thing. And for you, in this case, you get pushed back a lot less, but still a little bit of pushback. You get stunned until the animation ends, and you get iframes too, so you get hit after you parry. Then I played some VFX. Again, I tried to replicate Yuta's parrying. If you set the amount of clash to 0.045, it plays these little sparkles, and I just spammed like 10 of them here, so that it looks like the parry, like sparkles coming off your blade, kind of, right? You get what I'm trying to say. And then at the end here, I put a branch going to one of 3 branches. Now, this is to make it so each parry looks different and isn't like too much the same thing. So in this case, I have 3 here. Each of them play the same animation, but a different part of it. So this is Outburst from Yuta's new rework. It plays a different part of the animation for each parry. A speed 1, fade in, fade out at 0.1. It plays a little bit of a sound. Yeah, nothing crazy. You can copy this if you want. I put the sheath tag value to 0 because even if I do land the parry, it still does unsheath the katana. So I set it to 0. I canceled the mesh on my left hand, played a new one on my right arm again. I waited for 0.4 seconds. Now this is to make it so that when you do a parry and you land it, you can't instantly block while in the animation, so it doesn't like overlap. So you need to do this when you parry. Just keep this in mind. And then at the end of the end lag, it goes back to looping Wave 3. Again, pretty simple. Now, bullet parry is where it gets a little bit confusing, so I'm gonna start with explosion first. So as you can see here, it can also parry explosion type attacks, such as red reversals explosion. It doesn't stun the enemy and it doesn't cancel them. It does remove on a hit and it branches you to heavy parry. And it lasts the same time as all the other counters as well. Just keep that in mind. Now, when you do land the parry, it's gonna go to heavy parry. It's gonna push you back a little bit further, stun you for a little longer too, and give you iframes for a little bit longer as well. Now, this is because I played a similar animation, but this time it's not random, and it is a little bit slower, so it looks like it's a heavier kind of parry in my opinion. Fade out and fade in, and I get 0.1. Then I played the same EFX, it's the exact same, nothing changed. Then I played a different sound, this is from Sekiro I believe, and then I played the sheath tag value as 0 again, because when I do land the parry, like I said earlier, it's going to unsheath my katana. And then it cancels the one in my hand and plays a new one in my right arm. And then it goes to weight 3. And it keeps looping this. It's pretty similar to melee parry, except it doesn't have the random factor with like the different animations. And that's literally about it. Now, moving on to bullet parries, it does get a bit complex here, I'm not going to lie. Basically, I tried to replicate auto parry frames from Deep Pokken. If you ever played Deep Pokken, you'll know what I'm talking about. Basically, when you parry a bullet type attack, it again doesn't cancel out your stun your enemy, and it only branches you. But in this case, it gives you a counter frame again, so that after you counter a bullet type attack, you still have some more counter frames instead of iframes. But in this case, one thing I did do is that I made it so that for the first 0.1 seconds after you do a bullet parry, you cannot do another parry. This is to prevent from like auto parrying too much and creating too much clutter, because for some moves, the projectile doesn't disappear when you parry it. So it's going to hit you like 5 times when it goes through you. This is to prevent that from happening and make it so that you can only parry like projectiles back to back instead of like the same projectile multiple times. Now, after that 0.1 frames is over, it plays another 0.2 frames. In this case, I made it 0.3. But this one overwrites this one. And basically, when this is over, it gets to the actual counter frames. Now, I just repeated the same things as the parry branch here. I put all 3 different attack type parries here. Nothing different. Stun myself for 0.4 seconds. I played the same VFX again, but this time I put a cancel here. This cancel is only for the ring, the glow, and the light. This is to make it so if you auto parry stuff a lot, it doesn't create too much VFX clutter. It's a similar thing to how the auto parry thing is. It's just to prevent more clutter from happening on your screen and sound as well. And then after all that, it again branches to 1 of 3 branches. Does the same thing, plays the sound, plays an animation, and then it goes back to looping weight 3. That is how you make parrying. Again, it's literally just a passive. It is nothing too crazy. If you followed along and you listen closely, I think you should be able to understand. Now, I'm going to end the video here. I do want to say that passives have a lot of untapped potential, so it's really up to you to make what you want with it. I wish you guys all good luck skill building, and have a good day.